The first item is the adoption of the agenda.
Move the adopt.
Ken Bryant, oh, go ahead.
Move the adopted agenda. Printed.
We got a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any revisions or additions to the minutes of the June 3rd meeting?
Ken Bryant, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Dewey, how are you doing today?
Good morning. Good.
Anything for us?
I'll just stop by to visit, guys. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you for coming by. Do we have anybody else calling in, or is that?
Just Ken.
Does anybody know if anybody? Okay. Okay, let's just dump right into reports then. Megan?
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Megan.
Morning, Ken. We do have one action item in your packet this morning. I'm gonna go ahead and review this, but I understand if you guys want to table it till next time when Steve can be here as well. We've got the recommendation for changes to pay ranges and to wages. And our methodology on that, our benchmarks are pretty much unchanged from prior years. As you guys know, our data sources include our own survey, some external surveys, market data, and then we also use some external surveys to take a look at benefits this time of year as well. Probably the biggest change in what you see is more changes to entry level pay for a majority of the positions. And that in reality is only about 60% of what is needed. I thought we could kind of do a phased approach to that just to control costs a little bit more because we allow people who are performing to maintain their growth in their range. Raising that entry puts upward pressure on wages where somebody's not at top pay. So that just to control our costs a little bit. So we would expect to see similar changes again, recommendations again on entry next year. And part of that's been local pressure. Part of that's what we're seeing in the surveys that we're looking at. And within those surveys, as the board's aware, we've got our benchmarks. We've got a lot of focus on similarly sized municipalities and utilities, but also on employers with who we directly compete for employees. So we're kind of trying to do a balancing act there. The recommendation that you see there puts a little over 141,000 toward pay range adjustments. And that's the wage adjustments that would take place for people who have maintained their performance following these recommended changes to the pay ranges. Again, to allow them to maintain that growth. And then another 51,600 about in merit increases for people who are continuing to grow and gain skill and knowledge in their jobs and allow the growth within their pay range. And I think you'll see that the dollars we're talking about are a little bit more aggressive. The total coming in at almost 193,000. It's a little more aggressive than what we saw last year. But if you look at historically, and it's kind of illustrated on the charts on page 3 in your packet, we tend to stay behind, kind of a little more conservative than the rest of the country. And about 5 years ago, we had kind of a high catch-up year, and that's kind of what we're seeing again this year. A little bit of that again is due to the adjustments to the entry pay. But if you look at that data, us versus the rest of the country, cumulatively, we're still running about 4 points behind everybody else if you look at the last 11 years that are graphed out there. So a couple of things that are included in these pay range, pay chart changes would result in the elimination of the general maintenance position in underground facilities. But it really has no consequence. That position has been vacant since 2001. It's been in deferred status, which basically means it's not counting towards our authorized total number of employees. And I think Grant would attest to this, but general maintenance meter reader position, which is one grade higher, has really become the default entry level position in that department. We want folks first and foremost to learn to read meters, so that's kind of why that's happened. And the other thing that the recommended package would do is to formally eliminate the environmental services director position. As you all know, that's been vacant since 2017. A lot of those responsibilities shifted to the water and wastewater plant superintendents, to Nolan and Travis. Some of the environmental functions have been absorbed by other in-house staff. Some of it's being done on a consulting basis. So talked with Jeff and feel like it's time to go ahead and take that formal step, and that will make water treatment and wastewater treatment officially their own departments instead of part of one group called environmental services. So those are kind of side effects of what we presented here. So again, we've got a recommendation to approve revisions to pay ranges and positions as indicated in your packets, corresponding adjustments to employee wages to maintain progress within their pay range, except for those who have not sustained their job performance, and then merit-based changes as well. We had recommended these be effective June 20th, but again, with not everybody here, I understand if the board wants to table this till the next meeting.
Megan, back on your personnel paragraph 2, corresponding increase is not automatic, it must be earned. To be eligible for the pay increase, employees must maintain their job performance. Did I read or did I agree with this that we had 3 that did not qualify for that this time?
Or for
All right,
maybe
explain
only
that
a
to
small
me.
percentage of it, or none of it. And there
Okay.
were 3 individuals that fell into that category. And that doesn't mean that they're not doing their job at an acceptable level. That would be a whole nother matter that we would
Yeah,
address.
sure.
But what it does mean is that their performance this year has declined versus last year, that they are below the total average. And that if you look at put a 6-year trend line on their points, that's a negative. It may be negative 0.1, but it's a negative.
It's a negative.
So that throws that person into that, and then we look at how high is that rate of decline, and then that determines what portion, if any, they get of that pay range adjustment.
That's all based on their supervisor's evaluations.
Yes.
Does anybody else look at those 2?
Yes, department heads who have, like foremen and assistant supervisors, they work together on those, and then they're sent up to myself and to Jeff, and we both review them. And a lot of times there's some feedback in that process, but everybody does a really good job at that.
You talked about being below the average. Is that this adjusted performance evaluation number that you referenced?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Where does that come from?
Each year, we look at the people who are undergoing an annual appraisal, so not somebody that's just been here 6 months, they're not in that process yet, okay? We look at each person who received an annual appraisal, average, what is the average number of all of those? This year it was 362.7. And then we adjust each group so that is within, there's several department groups in that total. There's an adjustment made so that each group aligns with that average.
So that's like a point basis that everybody gets evaluated on the same kind of level.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. What we saw, the reason we started doing that, gosh, we've probably been adjusting points for 20 years, I would imagine. But what we saw just, no matter how much you talk about what, what's 3 mean, what's 4 mean, people are different and they rate different. But, Carl will tend to rate consistent across his group, Grant will rate consistent across his group, but they may look at things differently. So what we ended up with was you may have had employees in this group that were performing just as well as this one, but that's a 400 to this supervisor and a 360 to this supervisor. And so we kind of had an unlevel playing field before we started trying to do something to make an adjustment so that everybody was, for the monetary end of it, getting put onto kind of a level. scale.
The history, the average of that number would be interesting just to see the ebbs and flows.
And I don't recall it varying 10 or so points from 350 over the years, kind of as you see some folks who retire who are maybe high performers and newer folks come in, it kind of, but it's been real close to that for a number of years.
Even though Steven's not here, I think we've got a consensus if we wanted to vote on it. I don't want to hold everybody up getting what they've earned because one person isn't here. I know that last year due to COVID, we pushed back some wages, so I don't want to do that again, even if it's just for 2 weeks, personally.
Getting it done.
Yeah. The care of Steven's house.
So what? Go ahead and take the motion. Ken, are you okay with that?
Yes, that's fine with me.
I make a motion to approve revisions to pay ranges and positions as indicated on the enclosed pay range charts, to a corresponding adjustment to individual wages, to maintain individual progress within the pay range except for those who fail to sustain their performance, and 3, merit-based changes to wages and salaries in an amount not to exceed $51,604, each to become effective June 2021.
Ken Bryant, second.
All right, got a motion and a second to approve revisions to pay ranges and positions as indicated on the enclosed pay range charts. A corresponding adjustment to individual wages to maintain individual progress within the pay range, except for those that have failed to sustain their performance, and merit-based changes to wages and salaries in an amount not to exceed $51,604, each to become effective on June 20th, 2021. All in favor? Aye.
Ken Bryant, yes.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, gentlemen, appreciate that.
Thank you. Very well put together too. I mean,
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
very well put together.
I think the only other update I might have for you is we are in the process of scheduling some more interviews for general maintenance meter reader and underground. Other than that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Tony, you got any other family we can hire?
Allowed.
Any other questions for Megan? Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, water treatment. Travis. Morning.
Hi,
Good morning.
Travis.
I do have one action item. It's to replace secondary 1 and 2 basin valves. They're some of the original plant, and it's come over the years that they won't seal anymore. And anytime we try to take one out of service, everything, water leaks back into it, and it just makes doing any maintenance a nightmare. Which it is a budgeted item, and which with lead times and everything that everything has been, by the time these would come in, should be our slow time and everything, so, which would be using in-house labor and equipment. And just recommendation, motion purchase valves using quotes.
I move we make a motion to purchase valves using quotes.
Ken Bryant, second.
Motion and a second to purchase valves using quotes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ken Bryant, aye.
Passes.
And then, not much else, other than what's in the packet. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
well treatment went good this year.
Yes.
Nothing, no big. I know last year we kind of they discovered some stuff that we had to address, so.
Exactly. Yeah, this year, everything looked good, everything, they just sent me the report on all the results back, and I haven't had a chance to look at it right yet, but yeah, the only thing we're waiting on is the pump assemblies to come back. Basically, they take those back to their shop, rebuild them, do any repairs that need to be done, and then they bring them back. And then we keep them in storage until next year, so.
Any other questions for Travis? Thank you, Travis.
I guess we'll have to have Spencer work on the bids for the doors.
Yep.
Put a couple bids in.
All right. Wastewater, Nolan.
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Nolan. Have an action
Morning,
item.
Nolan.
Morning. Do have the action item for the spreader truck replacement, budget item held over from last year. We did receive 3 bids for that. They were open on the 2nd. 2 of those are very similar to what we have now. One was a different setup, that one from John Deere, but after going through all the bid information, my recommendation would be to accept the bid from Meyer Truck Service for a 2022 HV 607 SBA International with a SXI 720 spreader truck mount in the amount of $174,922.24.
Current trucks, just a wreck, right? I mean, I remember that was one of the first things when I got on this board. I remember hearing that truck was trash, man.
I mean, they're still both operational, but yeah, they've been in need of replacement.
We're gonna do it.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay. Didn't know we had many options.
I mean, one of them still spreads really well. The other one that we've had to rebuild, or Brian rebuilt that fan a time or 2 already. I'm not real sure what the best option moving forward is.
Are you the only user of that truck?
We have been, yeah, well, since the line at the water plant over the last few years, they did what they did. I don't think long has been spread up there by us for probably 5 or 6 years. Yeah. But originally that fan truck was the water truck, and it's just been the plant. We use it when we can, but I think, yeah, since Travis is looking at doing soil sampling and stuff to spread the lime up there again, it'll be used in both places.
What is the big difference in bid?
So that 3rd bid from Side District Renova, it's actually more, you see like the kind of, the tall like spray rigs almost that they spread fertilizer with. It was that kind of setup as opposed to a truck with a litter bed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I move we accept the bid from Meyer Truck Service for 2022 HB 607 SBA International and SXI 720 spreader truck mounts in the amount of $174,922.24.
Ken Bryant, second.
Motion and second to accept the bid from Meyer Truck Services for a 2022 HV 607 SBA International and an SSI 720 spreader truck mount in the amount of $174,922.24. All in favor? Aye.
Ken Bryant,
Motion passes.
Thanks, gentlemen. Then I have a couple updates. At the May 13th meeting, I had an action item to ask you guys for, I requested to get proposals for the polymer control replacement. At the time, didn't really think about it, but Jim talked with Jeff and I. He's fairly certain he can do that in-house. If you guys were not opposed to that, we could just, all the replacement parts that we use, we just get quotes on it. So, think Jim seems to think it would be, we don't know how much the labor will be, but for less than $10,000 or so.
You can handle it, then, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be mostly electrician stuff, but, yeah, we just replace the parts that need replacing instead of starting from scratch in the holding system.
That wouldn't affect like a warranty or anything.
That stuff's original from
Okay.
90, I think that is, yeah, 92,
Okay,
so.
so forget that. I don't have a problem.
Okay. On the aeration basin, I gave you two a drawing. That was another potential setup on how those mixers would go in that basin. They're kind of looking at trying to get some computational fluid dynamics on that to see if that would give us the mixing we need. So it's just, I guess that was one of the recommendations from one of the equipment manufacturers, as opposed to having those 4 shorter bridges off that main one. But yeah, we should be meeting, Jeff and I should be meeting with them again sometime in July to kind of look at what. Yeah. On the Edwards pumps, that other large pump was installed Monday, and I met with Mike, the owner of FTC, the sales guy, and his lead serviceman from their shop. On that motor that came apart after being in service for 28 days, I think at this juncture, I still need to have a conversation with Jeff with him being out of the office. But Mike would like to give us a refund on that and actually look at a different pump potentially, or they want to do some flow study type stuff at the plant to actually find out our head pressures, our flow rates, things like that, and try to actually work towards a solution as opposed to kind of putting a pump that's not sized right back in over and over. So that's about all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
So they would refund the pump that probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, it sounds like.
Yeah, so I think it was around $5,700 is what we paid for that rebuild. They would give us a refund on that. Some of that field work at the plant, Mike thought would be done as part of the service, not necessarily charged all for that, and then kind of put that refund towards the right size pump essentially. So.
Any other questions for Nolan? Thank you, Nolan. Underground, Grant.
Morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
Morning.
I don't have a lot to add. The park ground restoration is complete, as you can see in those pictures. Everybody was really pleased with the work that was done there. So it's up and going. We're still waiting on an invoice from SAK to finish up paying them, but we will as soon as we get there. North English is complete. We're kind of waiting on the ground to settle a little bit and let that fall before we do street repair. But it is complete, and all equipment is moved back to the shop. Crosstown ties are going good. They are to Brunswick Street as of now. We're gonna get through it for the weekend. The only other thing I have to add that's not in your packet, I was informed yesterday by the vendor that we got the trucks from, that 2021s are no longer available. So he's gonna have to look into 22s. And I did inform him that as long as the specs and the price stayed the same, that shouldn't be a problem. If any of that changed, we'd have to rebid it. So we're still in the middle of that conversation, but that is up in the air at this time. Other than that, that's all I had to add, unless the board has any question.
21s aren't available.
I guess they flatlined and they're done building those.
When are you gonna be done with the Crosstown project?
It'd probably be installation of pipe, probably be another week and a half, 2 weeks, depending on vacation schedules and other, but it's going really smooth. We've made the tie at Brunswick. We just gotta lay a little pipe today to get out of that. We're trying to get Brunswick back to them for the weekend. And then you just got,
Not much further.
400 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of street repair to be made,
Coming behind it.
coming behind it, services. It'd take 2 weeks to get it chlorinated, disinfected, and serviced, and then we'll swap services over.
Have you had some main breaks?
We've had a couple, yeah. I think you can attribute that to the hot and the dry.
Hot and
That
dry.
came so fast.
Yeah.
My ground gets to moving. They don't like it. That pipe don't like it.
I thought I'd seen several of it. Yeah.
Then they've been big ones, shear breaks, and it's not wear and tear on the pipe. You can just see where the ground moved, and
They
they
would sure.
dig it up. Looks like somebody sawed it too.
It'd be nice to have that North English project done. Ongoing.
They didn't have any issue with the railroad. They came by and checked a couple times, but
Any other questions for Grant? Thank you, Grant. Electric distribution, Doug.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Doug.
Just one update on replacing the Direct Berry Primary Lakeview Mobile Home Park. The crew did finish installing the conduit. We've been getting pulling wire in, all the primary conductors pulled in. They're working on terminating that now, hopefully get that cut over pretty soon. And then move over to other underground projects, so. Nothing else to add unless you have any questions for me.
Tuesday the 8th, did you replace a pole on Merle? Is that what happened? Electricity was out for a while?
That was a tractor accident. in
Oh,
the field.
tractor
Yeah,
accident.
he clipped a down guy
Okay.
on an overhead guy pole and broke the overhead guy and the pole, the guy pole. And caused the guy wire to flip up in the circuit and actually trip the circuit out, so.
It affected that side of town, but
It did.
yeah. I went to get gas and couldn't get it.
Yeah, there were several out.
They had it back up and operational pretty quick though.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
Yeah, it was,
Pretty impressive.
it was after hours to get crews scrambled back in and get isolated.
They did a good job. It didn't take long.
Any other questions for Doug? Thanks, Doug. IT and broadband, Jim?
Hi, Jim.
Morning.
Morning.
Not a whole lot to add to the what's in the packet. We did install monitors and recorder at the police station yesterday for the park. Also going around checking our air conditioners and some of our bigger cabinet sites. A lot of those are having trouble keeping up. So a lot of stuff's getting a little warmer than it needs to be. But other than that, getting lots of odds and ends working on. Probably next board meeting, we'll have a couple recommendations for some conduit contractor and some file stuff.
How many bids did you get in for that?
I think there were 7. That's a $1.2 million total project. Bids for the conduit contractor range from $600,000 to $3 million something. So some of those are obviously out.
Right. Any questions for Jim? Thanks, Jim. Electric production, Carl.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Carl.
The demolition is moving along. The concrete removal, I know it's kind of a struggle. That stuff is really hard to get out of there. One of the operators made comments on it was 8 foot thick. It's got 1.25 rebar on 6-inch centers, and so it's not an easy thing. I'm glad we're getting it out of there. We did talk to them in our meeting. They're going to leave their fencing there until we can come up with something to minimize any time that we don't have a fence across the property there. So actually, part of it they said we could have. I'm kind of looking at that and seeing if we can't save some money there using that. But all their panels they'll want to take, but the piece stretched across the front, and they said we could keep that. So, other than that, yesterday, we have been running units 10 and 11 the last couple of days. We're running them again today. Unit 6 was dispatched Tuesday, I think, and we couldn't get it started. We've had time working on it. We found a transformer that it was burned up, melted down on the igniters was what the problem was. And I have actually found one of those and have it ordered. It should be maybe here Monday. Hopefully we're getting that shipped in quickly. It's supposed to be a little cooler next week, but that should have that back up and running again. It's in outage right now until Tuesday. But just miscellaneous things we've been doing there. Glad to answer any
But we
questions.
are running 10 and 11.
Yes, we will run that again today. They've been dispatching that for economical reasons because of the heat, I'm sure.
I saw where we had issued a statement or put something in the paper about encouraging people to reduce their usage during certain times.
Yes, Doug and Tony kind of collaborate on that as well. And anytime we see the temperatures getting like they are to where we may have a peak load, we try to encourage people to use less, which I don't think we'll hit a full peak, but talking to Darren Dunlap, engineer down at MOPEP, he talked like this is kind of isolated to our area here. And it's not really involving the entire pool. So, historically, we've only had one other peak in June. They're generally mid to late July and into August.
I think the chamber's the one that put that
Yeah, that's right.
in the
So
paper.
Chamber did that one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think yours is just local.
We just sent an
Yeah,
internal
absolutely.
email to tell everyone to try to,
I saw
I sent
it.
a
I think I saw
local
it.
interdepartment, then I forwarded up to the city for all the city departments, and then they send it through the Chamber of Commerce, so that's how it got out.
Okay. Get the word out. That's what we can do.
What was our peak yesterday, Carl?
You asked me that, we were so busy up to the end of the day, I don't even think I looked at it.
It was over
Sorry.
35.
It was over 35, I think, which is up where it was last year.
That's what I
That's
was
pushing last year's peak.
That's it, yeah, we're real close.
It's hot.
It was hot.
Yeah.
My thermostat at home, which is in the shade, had 101.5. If it's correct, it was, yeah, it's hot.
We're making sure crews are getting hydrated and
Yes. As a matter of fact, I elaborated on that yesterday morning, when we had the guys together, cautioning them about that. Megan sent out an email on it as well.
Chase actually found some Gatorade too. It was a little bit like toilet paper there for a little while.
You guys safe from themselves too.
yeah.
Any other questions for Carl? Thank you, Carl. Tony, how are you today?
good. Morning,
Tony.
guys. Just got some miscellaneous things in there. We did open the business office back up on Monday. Seems to be going really well. We are still waiving the online fee for people to pay their bill online. So we'll probably just continue to do that. I know we'll probably switch. That all change when we go to the new software. So I had a meeting on the 10th with Tyler. We kind of wrapped up the first phase. We have another meeting on the 29th, which is kind of our kickoff to implementation. So I think in that meeting, we're going to kind of get a timeline of when we're going to get that installed and start working on it. Other than that, just been working on the budget. I have gotten several calls from contractors on the business office that are telling me they're not doing quotes. They're so busy and they have a lack of staff that they're not even, basically they tell me they're not going to bid on it. So,
We got that with the fencing.
really.
Okay.
Really?
So a couple local guys have called me and said that they just don't have the time. And so we'll wait and see what the 29th looks like. So, but we might have to reevaluate that. So, other than that, that's really all I had.
Have you had much foot traffic in the building?
It's picked up a little bit, yeah. But we've had a lot of increase in the online, which is kind of nice. So I think that's helped. So it's taken a while to get people to transition to paying it online, but it's picking up.
Have there been any payments to Rimco from the city yet?
No,
I think they're working.
I think we should be seeing one probably towards the end of the month, possibly the first
I didn't know if they built
part of the week.
monthly or how they would do it.
I think Jeff had told me that I think the city's going to get an invoice on the 20th, maybe, Dewey? On the Rimco out at the Hab Center.
Yeah, I think.
And then we have 30 days. I think they have 30 days to get it paid. So,
One of the things Remco said that that's kind of their schedule, that they're not the type of company that you on that shit, you're 5-10 days late if you need to do something, you just call them what's up. Pretty decent to deal with.
Good.
So if Tony runs into any issues, the boss says budget, he might be a day or two away, he needs to set something up. If he just lets those guys know what he's doing, they're not going. No issues about it, no extra charges or nothing.
and I've got the account stuff set up for it. I guess the only thing is, well, Jeff, I have to, who's signing off on the invoices that are coming. We just want to make sure, that what's being billed is correct. So, and I don't know if that's somebody at the city that will do that, or I'm guessing would be. So,
Any other questions for Tony? Thank you, Tony. Let's move on to cash disbursements.
we've been spoiled the last few months with the power bill. Yeah. So,
It's almost $1 million. So it's-
yeah. We got another payment in for Aaron's in there too for the,
Those are smaller now, though.
yeah. Pretty much now, I think we're just covering the 2-foot underground. So,
What's your time frame to get that done, Carl? Just curious.
The original contract was August 31st, but, well, like I said, getting the concrete out of this is kind of slow moving, but I anticipate it being done before that.
I move we approve cash disbursements.
Ken Bryant, second.
Motion and second to approve cash disbursements. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That is approved. Have any other business for the good of the board? Next meeting will be Thursday, July 1st. Thursday, July 1st, Ken.
Thursday?
Yeah, that's good. I'll be there Thursday, not Wednesday.
All right. And entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjourned. Thank you very much.
Well, granted, that guy asked me, it's just time we're gonna have cameras.